Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Artist Collective. As you can tell, we are in the middle of a romp already with one of my all-time favorite people who I've never met in person. Truly, like at this point in this junior year of pandemic, it's just like, yeah, Chie has become a good friend, I'd like to say, and also one
Mhm.
I've literally never seen in real life. So, hi again, virtually. Um, Welcome to this podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. As you were saying that, I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, I have no idea like how tall you are
Yeah. Conceptually, I have an idea. I know.
of like your size and shape in the world.
Yeah.
And that's so bizarre.
And it's also just
Um,
like an energy thing. Like I feel like I know what you feel like
mhm,
energetically, but I have actually no concept of your energy in real space,
just
which is
the strangest.
so weird. But also nobody like I'm not going to introduce you. Hi. Tell the world, who are you today?
Hi, hello world. Hello, loyal listeners. I don't know. What do we say on podcast? I don't know. I
I don't
don't.
know either. I haven't
I don't know
figured it
what we
out.
say. I don't. This is my. Am I doing it? Are we doing it?
We are doing it.
Um,
I think.
my.
I
I
think.
think. My name's Chie Morita. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently just streamyarding in. Is this, or do we use these as verbs now?
We
Um,
can.
Great, fabulous. From Chitimacha and Choctaw land, colonially known as the Bywater in New Orleans. Here, deep in the graw at the moment, we are. The countdown has begun, so the Martying it's commenced. It's everywhere.
Unreal.
Um, and I am a petite Asian American woman with a shaved side of my head, pretty grown out, pretty aggressively grown out, long on the long side. I am wearing feather earrings from a fabulous Navajo artist, a
Which, by the
gray and
way, are
black.
incredible, like,
Oh,
so
thank
beautiful.
you, thank
Mhm,
you. I scavenged them. I lovingly scavenged them.
mhm.
And I am in front of a beautiful white kitchen in a polka dotted sweater.
Amazing. And I guess thus far, your connection with EAC has been in what capacity would you say? I know what I would say, but
What would I say? Uh, mm, Finance doula? Is that
yeah.
what I say?
Ooh, ooh, yeah.
I'm yeah, I think that's what I'd say. I'm the co-founder of Forge NYC, and we exist to help artists and makers define their own success and then plot a course towards getting there. And I think the work that I've done with EAC so far is really starting down that journey of financial wellness and financial, and dare we say, abundance,
Mhm.
um, to a place where there are plans in place and at least you can make knowledgeable, informed decisions about your spending, and hopefully, fingers crossed, keep a budget and feel more confident about your financial life, so that you can plot courses towards sustainability.
Yeah. I mean, this I'd say this topic of finance is one that many people avoid because of all of the feelings
Mhm.
around it and or experiences prior to it. And that was one that when we started EAC, it was like, this is the one that must be a part of every single anything that we're doing as even just the starter, taster, whatever
Mhm.
to the conversation, because it is something that frankly no one talks about really in any field whatsoever, but specifically with artists. And it's also just this anomaly of this thing that hangs over us that we need to somehow figure out with what feels like zero guidance or any sort of education or grounding. Um, and so, you know, for anyone listening now, and you heard the word finance come into the space, just know that even though we literally can't see you, we do see you and we hear you, and that is exactly why we have these conversations, just to even begin kind of fleshing it out, and so it doesn't become as perhaps scary as it may for many. Um, I know that that has been a real a real stepping stone for myself too in my own journey, but just, for many of those individuals who have gone through our various cohorts and such thus far.
And the way that I like to look at money big umbrella, money in general, is as a tool. And it is a tool that is out there in the world that some people have tons of this tool sitting in their pocket. Some people have none of this tool sitting in their pocket. But so we could say with hammers as well, right? Some people have like five hammers in their toolkit, and some people don't own any hammers at all.
Mhm.
And when you have to hang a painting, you use something else, or you borrow one from a neighbor, or you do. And this is this huge oversimplification. And we also, like, I should name in this moment that as we oversimplify, we're also needing to point at the underlying problems that sit systemically within the capitalist society that we live in.
Mhm.
Like there is a huge problem with class and how we handle class in the
Yep.
United States, and how class connects with wealth, and how wealth connects with value. And there's a lot there's a lot here. But at its very core, a dollar bill is a tool. You can use it to buy something. You can use it to exchange for something. A hammer is a tool. You can use it to put a nail into a wall. They are both tools. And I think if we can start there, we can make dollar bills a little less scary.
Mhm.
Um, and if you don't know how to use a hammer, maybe it's a little scarier. But when you learn how to use a hammer, it's a little less scary, you know? Um, and but all that being said, like, it does bring up a huge pile of feelings. Like, there is a lot of shame and guilt and insecurity and fear wrapped up in finances, partially because there is very little education in the States around just like basic financial wellness,
Mhm.
ins and outs of money, and just, math. It is math. And at the end of the day, the numbers are really not going to lie to you. But we don't look at them
Right.
because they're scary, and they bring up so much. And I wish they didn't, because they really, it's not their fault. It's not the numbers' fault, but it does bring up a lot.
Honestly, I it's easier to blame the numbers though. Like, I feel like for me, it's like, "Oh,
Totally.
no, no, I'm not a math person. Oh, no, no, I don't understand the numbers." So, like, why even associate myself with something that I just don't relate to that. But it's like, n no, like, it doesn't really work that way. Like, that is the structure. Whether I wanna tear it down or not is relevant, but, like, that is the structure as it stands, and it's like I kinda have to deal with the fact that, like, "Oh, these are numbers. They're telling a story. The story says something about me and my choices, and that isn't a good or a bad thing. It just is." And I feel like you've said that so many times, and it's something that really resonated with me is just this idea of even just seeing it. This we as artists, um, if we are nothing but storytellers, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
reframing that idea of the numbers and money and just seeing it all in front of you as a story was actually something really. I mean, it seems so small, but for me, it was a mind-blowing shift of,
Hmm.
"Oh, right, I'm good at storytelling. I am a great actor." Like, and so
Hmm.
why if this is also another version of storytelling, how can I then find my way into that story and use that as a way for me to find my path in there? I guess I'm curious if you have any thoughts as to that as the narrative that you do share and like why that has perhaps been something that's been successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see where to start. So I think that as creative people, artists, makers, storytellers in the world, it is the most natural thing to weave a tale,
Mm.
right? And to add detail and add color and characters, and right, and to just like to weave this tale. And if you can take that skill, that's so natural, that thing that comes to each of us so naturally. And I think, like, when I say each of us and I say artists and makers, like, I actually sneakily mean like everyone on the planet. Like,
Mhm.
I think that all humans are makers, all humans are artists. They may not choose to self-identify that way, but I think that that creative spirit in all of us is kind of what I'm talking
Have
about here when
you
I say
I'm
that.
interrupting you. Have you watched Making It with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman?
I have
I
not.
feel like I feel like this might be a show for you too.
Mm.
It's just like a bunch of regular human beings who, like, in their own spare time, make things out of, like,
Mm.
styrofoam or whatever they do, and they're just, like, anything that they can find, they make, and, it's, like, comes from the DIY world that we're in right now, but it's just
Mhm.
this wonderful view into you don't have to be this by profession in order to just create, and so I think that's just anyway. I interrupted you.
Yeah, oh my goodness, yes, and when we speak about financial narrative as well, like, I think that that's a huge part of it too, like, what are you asking your art to do for you financially?
Mm.
And this comes back to defining your own success, like, we have been handed this version of success that looks like suits and money and banks and cars and opulence and the Great Gatsby, right? We've been handed this thing that's supposed to look like success, or this thing that we're reaching for that even if maybe we don't even want that, like it's this, there's like we've been handed this thing, and we've told that that's what success is, and we've told that that's where it should go. I feel like for men it's very that shaped. For women it's, babies and families and white picket fences and owning a house. And if you sit anywhere in the midst the gender spectrum that is not on the binary, it's even more confusing to try and figure out where amongst that story you're supposed to sit. But if you allow yourself the power to choose your own success and define it for yourself and say, my creativity, the success of my creativity sits in making things. I would like to make a thing
Mhm.
every day. It doesn't need to do anything. It just, I want to make it. I want to activate my hands and my heart and my brain, and I want to make a thing. I want to color. I want to make a pair of earrings. I would like to crochet this thing. I'd like to write a song. And that's it. That's success. Success for me as a creative person is that I made something today. And maybe I shared it with someone, or maybe I loved it, or maybe I hated it, but I made something today. Is very different than my creative success looks like being a creative that makes their entire financial well-being through my art. Two totally different sides of the spectrum, both incredibly valid and incredibly fulfilling and incredibly wonderful, but totally different worlds when it comes to planning how you're going to live your life.
Mm.
And of course, everything in between, right? Because we don't live on this binary. Um, and and that's where the storytelling comes in. Is my story that I make all these things and they become Christmas presents for my nieces and nephews and nibblings? Is my creative story that I am on Broadway doing X, Y, or Z? Is my creative story that I tour around the country in a van singing songs to the people that I meet? There's so many different versions of what that story can be for any individual, and it's going to change too. That's the other wonderful thing about a story. But we even through this amazing ability that each of us have to weave these stories, we somehow get stuck when we come to weaving our own, and that comes back to the guilts and the shames and the value problems that we've run into in this society, specifically in America. We don't value artists enough. We don't value creativity enough.
Mhm.
We don't teach it enough. So how are we supposed to believe that our own energy and our own creativity is valuable, and then turn that into our own story, and then live that own story, and then finance that own story, our own story? I feel like my grammar just like went to total garbage there, but
Who cares? We're here to
okay.
talk numbers. We're not here in an English class. Let's keep our subjects
Yes.
straight, okay? We're here. I've entered in my brain, I'm like, "Okay, this is the class that I know my shoulders go tight." And I'm trying to be like, so it's cool if your grammar went, like, great, that's where I would be thriving. So I'll pick up the slack for you over there, like, we got it.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
mhm. We're totally fine. Don't worry. I guess I have so many follow-up questions. All right. First and foremost, I hear that. I love the idea that our own stories can change clearly, right? We grow and we morph as people, hopefully, and we continue developing, hopefully, as human beings on this planet as the world changes and evolves around us as well.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but what happens when, for example, people plan for the one story and then the story shifts and you have to replan again? Is it like you have to go fully restructuring again when you view your, say, finances and you see the story that it's telling? You have to go. Is this like a repeat structure that you're suggesting?
It's
Suggesting?
a
I said
really it's
suggesting.
a
Like I guess I'm
it's
also
a
here.
real
I'm not
stream.
speaking English today, so here we
That's
are.
fine. It's fine. There are so many other languages we can use. It'll be great. That's an amazing question. I think the work that I do with Forge is really grounded in a foundation of language as well, and around personal mission. And again, like I have to add a huge asterisk in here to mention that like we are speaking the colonizer's tongue. We value education in a linguistic space in a way that really, really over benefits a populace that already has a lot of
Mhm.
benefits and can be incredibly harmful. So like we'll put that into the basket with the class and societal and systemic capitalistic problems that we're gonna
Mhm.
fix in this hour,
Yeah,
right?
of course,
But
clearly.
yeah, yeah, solving everything. Um, but if you know why you're here, what your mission is to be here to do, and that mission might be I'm here to be a mom, or I'm here to make this thing, or I'm here to solve homelessness. Whatever your mission is as a human being on this planet probably is linked to all the little things that you're making. Not little things, big things, massive things, tiny things, all the things that you're making probably have something to do with that drive. Even if that creative urge is simply making space for the work that you're doing out in the world. We cannot be on 100% of the time. We, in the brilliant words of Joanna Carpenter, you cannot pour from an empty cup. We must all understand our own refilling strategies. Maybe the crocheting is the thing that you do to refill your cup so that you can go out and be a social justice warrior. Who knows? But understanding why are you here? Why are you here? What are you here to do? How are you changing the world? What's your stuff? That plan is the plan I want to help people develop towards financial wellness. Because whether you're making a hot dog stand or a piece of theater, the structures and the numbers are not that different. And the way that we make things is more similar than it is different, I think, no matter what it is. And so if you can take the tactic of making something and break it apart in a financial way, that tool you can apply to anything. And so I think if the plan starts from a place of mission driven urge, that even if the product changes a little bit, the numbers will be adaptable.
Yeah. How would you feel about just doing because we can in like in a hypothetical
Mhm,
in real time, like right now?
mhm. Of a plan changing for
Yeah,
someone?
mhm. Like, just, like,
Mhm, okay,
random arbitrary numbers in the ether that, like or, like, just, like, a story that I've told that comes from I don't know, I'm making literally gonna make this up on the fly. Is this like
great.
let's try it.
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
Yeah, we're storytellers.
great,
We're improv
great.
folks
Yeah,
here.
so I feel like on this planet, I don't have like a why necessarily because I feel like that actually boxes me in. And I feel like that actually is like leading back to systems in place to try to minimize us and our potential. So I actually don't personally have a why statement. But I feel like in this moment right now, I, as an artist, as a teacher, as a coach, as an actor, as a singer, as a collaborator, all of these things, I'm here to serve. I think that has really been my MO at the moment of what do I have? What have I been given? What are the gifts that I have? And how can I give that to others in a way that fully doesn't deplete myself, but to serve? So,
Mhm, mhm.
assuming that I wanted to like create a short film, let's just do that. And this short film, I don't literally don't know, I'm making all this up. This short film has a story that hopefully um, serves in some capacity and tells a story that has yet to be told. Great. I would is it I would look at my own personal finances and see how I can budget it out? Is it a totally separate situation? Like, what am I doing?
So I first just want to name the fact that you did just beautifully articulate your why right there. So I think you do have
Yeah,
one.
no, I mean, like,
I just heard
abstractly,
you say it.
sure, abstractly, I have one.
Yeah.
I just don't like to call it that because then that feels like a label. I guess I'm so not into the labeling of the things because
Mhm.
then it's, if one day somebody wants to change their label, then, like, then they have to go through all the rigmarole about, like, telling everybody that their label has changed. Like, nobody needs to know. It's, like,
Sure.
for you. So, yes, of course I know what my quote unquote "why" is. Like, I know why I'm on this planet. I'm very, very clear as to, like, how I'd like to interact with people. But yeah, maybe, like, logistically, I don't call it that for sure.
Okay. All
But
right.
yeah.
Well,
No,
fine.
but
Well,
you
all
you
right. Well,
challenged me. I like it. It's good.
it's your little heart label.
Yeah,
We don't have to look at it or share it to anyone
yeah.
else, but I do think it's in there. So interesting. So okay, so you are a person who comes to this planet in from a spirit of service, and the way you would like to serve your crowd today, your community today, is through a short film.
Mhm.
Fabulous. So, step one, we hope that you have some sort of awareness around your own personal finances. The way that I teach this in Finances Narrative, as I've done with EAC in times past, is take 1 month of your personal finances, just 1 month of your credit card statement, any cash receipts, all of your stuff. And you can pull this from an old record, or you can start today and just collect really diligently a month of financial records. Just collect them. Step one, collect your financial record. Step two, we we sort that financial record down into categories. Those categories can include things like your home, which is your rent and your electrical bill, and is way too high, especially if you live in New York City. um, Another category might be wellness, any fitness classes that you take, or a meditation app that you love, or whatever you're doing for your own wellness. Another category might be your lifestyle. This catches a lot of things. This catches needing to buy nail polish because that was a thing that you wanted today,
Mhm.
the coffee that you're consuming, the shoes that you need for something, groceries. So we sort into categories, and then we can see where we're spending our money, and we can start thinking about where we are valuing the things in our lives from a financial perspective as well. We see a lot of folks, well, I see a lot of I think we see a lot of I think we've seen this trend in EAC as well.
Mhm.
That once you hit this point, there's a huge number of people that just look at this information and go like, oh wow, oh
Mhm.
okay, interesting. Like I spend this much money on coffee a month, and I own a coffee maker, and I
Mhm.
feel really broke. And there's a thing I could look at,
Mhm.
or wow, I am paying like 75% of my expenses is my rent. Wow, like it's information, right? It is
Yeah.
neither good no nor bad. It doesn't carry any kind of moral significance. Also, it is not good or bad that you spend that much money on coffee. It is not good or bad that you spend that much money on rent. You just do. It is the information in front of you. It is your reality, and you've just lived it, so you know that it's your reality because you just did it, right?
Mhm.
And once we have this information, you can start to plan. How would you like to move through the world differently with this information? How would you like to change your habits, or look at those habits and ask questions about yourself about why these things are happening? I know for certain that when it gets colder, when the months turn colder, I'm more reliant on hot drinks that I can purchase out. Like the ability to like duck into a coffee shop and like get a nice little warm thing and like walk down the street
Mm.
with it, it's a comfortable place for me to be. It's lovely. I like it. It brings me a lot of joy. It is also expensive. So I plan for it. I know that that's a thing that's going to be coming out of my wallet more in the winter months than in the summer months. And I can make a plan for that. And maybe order out a little less, or I buy less nail polish, or whatever it is I
Mhm.
do. You reorganize. Once you have that foundation, you can start to do things like save, or put money towards causes, philanthropic causes you might want to give to, or put towards things that you want to save for, like, my friend's wedding is next year. So I want to save up for that so that I can travel to their wedding, or whatever it is. And one of the things you can save for is large creative projects. Probably in your month to month, as you're looking at your expenses, you are spending on whatever your creative joy is. Maybe that is buying a new microphone so that you can do more voiceover work. Maybe that is putting some different effort into a wardrobe choice so that you can have different looks for on camera stuff. Maybe that is buying new makeup, right? There's lots of, and speaking specifically here towards actors,
Mhm.
towards performers, but maybe it's new binders, or maybe it's tap shoes, whatever it is. You're probably spending in that way towards your creative passions anyway, and you can sort those as well and see how much you're spending on your job that
Mhm.
is being an actor, or being a tap dancer, or being a singer, or whatever it is. And think as well about what success for that person looks like. If success for your tap dance career means being a professional tap dancer who is on tour and 250 days a year and is bringing home the bacon from that career, spending the money on those really great tap shoes has a different impact than if you're a casual tap dancer who maybe busks a couple times a week.
Mm.
um, and from there we say, great, we want to make a short film. How much do short films cost? There's some research that can be done there. That's where I would encourage going to a mentor, or taking to a conversation with a friend who's made a short film before. Start talking to folks who've done it before. How much do these things cost? What did it cost you? What did you learn? And then create a budget for that short film. Spoilers, budgets are guesses. Everyone is guessing when they go, everyone. Don't, people will tell you they're not. It's a hopefully really, really educated guess, but it's a guess every time. And the more budgets we make and the more that we plan, the better we can get at guessing about this wild and silly life ride that we're on. Uh, and so the more short films you make, the more you're going to know. Um, I am also going to take this moment to stand on the tiny soapbox that is budgeting is a value statement. Creating a budget from a place of your values is a radically creative and radically excellent act towards your values and fighting for what you believe in the world.
Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. I would love to. So let's say you build a budget for this short film, and you would never do this, but since we're working in the
Mhm.
hypothetical, let's say you decide all of the people that are going to work on the film are going to volunteer for you.
God forbid. God
God
forbid.
forbid. God forbid, right? But I cannot tell you how many budgets that I see like this,
Yeah.
right? Where everyone works for free. We've all, I mean, dear listeners, like raise your hand if you've
Oh,
worked
I
on a
mean, absolutely. We're both raising hands. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, clearly.
say,
Mhm.
yes, this has happened. But that's a value statement. That is saying, like, I believe that on this project, in which I'm spending all of this money on all of these things, that the thing that I can not pay for is human labor.
Mhm.
And we don't believe that here. We don't believe that here at EAC.
No,
So
God.
if we believe that bodies and time are important, we must value them. We must value them with dollars. We must value them in a way that you can go back out in the world and spend those monies, right? Um, so, or let's say that as you're making this short film, you decide you really want to have an all clear production team. Um, and let's say that this all clear production team has some needs. They maybe there's some access needs, maybe there are some time needs, maybe there are some spatial needs that are different than the other folks that you might hire. And the other folks, maybe they're cheaper.
Mhm.
And maybe you might say, no, like I would like to value these people and give them what they need to do the work that they are asking for. And so I will. I will take a little more time to make this film, which is going to cost some more money. I'm going to make sure that their access needs are met. I'm going to make sure that they have the stuff that they need to
Mhm.
do their work at their very best. And that's a value statement to say, like, no, we will do it the right way, the good way, capital G, good way. Whatever those values are for you, you can infuse those into your budgets and insist that people be taken care of the way you would like to be taken care of. And that is how we teach those we work with how to value
Yeah.
us, is to make those insistences. Um, so you build your budget, you have your budget, it's probably a guess. And as you go through production, you're going to learn where we guessed more than maybe we didn't, right? We start to purchase things and pay people and rent things, and we realize maybe we're a little over budget here, we're a little under budget here. We can move as we go and flex as we go. We do want these tools to be emergent for us. And by the end of the end of films being what they are, probably at the end of pre-production, you have a moment to reorganize, and at the end of filming, you have a moment to reorganize, and then as you go into post, you have a moment to reorganize. So you have some places to sort of
Mhm.
reorganize your numbers. And knowing what your personal finances are doing for you, you know how much money you personally have to invest in this project and how much money you need to raise. And this is, I don't a whole bag of beans.
This is like part due, duh, over here. Just yeah. Mhm.
Part 4,
Yeah.
raising money for things. But you will know what it will bear on you. And this is a place that I think we see so often creators say like, "Oh, well, if I wanna make this, I have to personally go into the debt of whatever to the tune of whatever it's gonna cost me to make this thing in order to make it. And it's my passion project, so of course I will, and the show must go on, and of course I won't pay myself." Nope. Please, please let's
Mhm.
find a different way. The value of your time can be shown in these tools. They are worn on your body as well. Like we all feel the weight of this unpaid time, this unvalued labor. Don't do it. You can make that choice that's different for yourself as well, and that goes back to defining success for you too. Insist on your own value.
Mhm.
Insist on the value of the people that you are working with. Put it down in writing, commit to it, and then raise the money. At Forge, we say all the time, if you can't afford the people, you can't afford the project.
Ooh, I love
People
that.
are time is valuable. Human effort is valuable.
Ooh, but that phrasing is so good. If you can't afford the people, you can't afford the project. Ooh, and we stamp that. And thank you so much. Goodbye. Ooh,
That's it.
so
We're here.
good. So good. So then I guess then the question here would be like if I then pivot, okay, or like I did my short film, it did what it did, and now I need to raise money for the next thing. Or let's say while I was in pre-production for this short film, I actually realized I don't want it to be a film. I actually want it to be a theatrical piece of something, and that becomes a whole slew of a new budget. Is it just like, okay, cool, let's guesstimate here, do the same type of value-based check-ins of what is important for this theatrical piece now that it's no longer a short film, and then come back and do it all over again? Rinse, wash, repeat?
Yeah, I mean, I think the non-budgeting stuff that I would add in there is, of course, communication. Like, why is this change coming up now? Who do we need to talk to about making this change a reality? Who does this mean is going to stay on the project, and who does this mean is going to separate from the project? Are we ensuring that those people that we asked for their time and that have committed to us and maybe not taken other work because they said yes to us? Are we still paying those people
Mhm.
for their time and their energy and their value? And how are we making that pivot, and let's make it in the most intentional and loving way we possibly can, and that's to you as well as to the rest of the team. Like, let's be
Yeah.
kind and intentional about all of the things that we do. Make that pivot with grace. um, Everything is going to change. I mean, this is a really, especially now we're in such a wild and wiggly time. Something's going to wiggle and you're going to have to adapt. And there's a lot of budgeting tools certainly that can be applied there. Make sure that you have a healthy contingency so that you have a little bit of emergency money if something goes over budget. Adding in some miscellaneous lines for spending so that you have a little extra money tucked away in that marketing budget if you need to buy a few more ads, whatever the thing is. And a lot of these line items can be transferable. We're going to pay people to act in the film. We're going to pay people to act in the theater show. We are going to need to buy a location to shoot. We're also going to need to buy a location to put the show on.
Mhm.
Those locations are going to be different, and they're probably going to cost different amounts of money. But it's a similar way of thinking, I
Mhm.
think, to sort of plan out all of the things that you need and then decide what those things are going to cost you.
Yeah.
Um, and this is also all like we're living in a hypothetical thinking
Completely.
space here at this point, and it's sometimes we feel, thanks to the oppressive nature of a scarcity mindset that we've all been handed, that is a lie, but that's like part six. um,
I actually think that's bumped up
uh,
before the other one. I think that one's before we fundraise.
Probably like part
Yeah.
three, yeah. We've been handed this scarcity mindset that tells us that we have to move really fast, that we have to be productive, that we have to like get this stuff done. And that's the thing that I like prescribe to. And the necessity of that is really of scarcity is really harmful. Um, and in those moments of pivot, I think that's really a great place to think about why that change is coming up. Why is this change coming up? Where are those problems coming from? How can we be really intentional about making this shift? And then later on, maybe next time you think you want to make a short film, you can also sort of ask, like, is this really a short film? Because last time it wasn't. And like, what is it now? And that saves time and energy too.
Yeah.
Um, but like you have way more time than you think you do. You have a moment to stop and take stock, raise the money you need, put the plans in place that you need, build the infrastructure, take care, right? It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. We are, in fact, not curing cancer. And, like things take the time they take, and that's okay.
Yeah. Besides the incredible budgeting tool that you just, like, briefly, looped everybody into, that obviously cohort members in EAC have done for themselves and people with you at Forge can do if they were to reach out and all of that, which I will share at the end of this. But, um, besides that, what would you say would be and clearly it changes per person and their needs and where they are in their awareness of their finances and or budgeting and or any of that. But what would you say are the like pitfalls that you have seen over the course of what you do with artists that you were like, "Oh, if only they had had this," or is it like
Mm.
an accountant? Is it a financial advisor? Is it a book that they need to read? Like, what is it like if you wish anybody had that thing before they even started? Is there something? This is either like a, "Yes, there's too many and you don't have time," or like, "No, because it really depends."
No, I think so if I'm speaking specifically to, well, maybe not. I don't know. I think I'm speaking specifically to, like, performance
Okay.
artists in this answer. Um, and it's a thing that I wish we had all not had. I wish we had all not been taught that we were disposable.
Mm, mm,
And I don't, and I value teachers very much. I think they are incredibly important. They are underpaid and undervalued themselves, and I think that's some of where this lesson comes from. But this like starving artist show must go on thing that we're handed
mhm,
is garbage. And I think I was taught it, certainly. And not to mention the, I was gonna say subtle, but I don't actually think it was subtle. But like the layers of racism and classism and clickiness, that layer into high school and college theater programs. Like there's just so many pieces to this,
mhm.
and like I wish that we had not been taught to belittle
Yeah,
ourselves, and to be ashamed we weren't good enough, or guilty that we didn't have the right thing, whatever it was, the right tool, the best brushes, whatever it was. Um, and yeah, and if I take that and I try and spin it positive, because I would love to do that. I think I just wish we had more like life tools earlier and more. I mean, I was homeschooled up until high school, and recently I was going through a whole bunch of like old notebooks and stuff, doing a sort of pandemic purge, and one of the things that I came across was one of my early math notebooks, and my mom would she'd like make me math worksheets, fill in the this and fill in the that, but almost all of it was narrative. There would be a little like story written out, and all of the stories were practical. They were about taxes, they were about sales
mm,
tax, they were about baking, measurements in baking. They were all like, it was all really like practical stuff, and like it's life tools.
yeah,
It doesn't it's so infused in everything that we do, and we haven't been taught to see it, and we have been handed with this scarcity and with this general devaluing of the creative spirit, that if you're not good at numbers, you can't do
right,
math, or if you don't have a marketing degree, you don't know how to market anything, and like it's not true.
yeah,
um which isn't to say that like a high level degree is not going to make you better and more skilled at a certain niche of tools and a certain type of skills, but there is nothing about there's nothing about you that is bad at numbers
right,
inherently, right? It is about perhaps a choice that you made. It's certainly an aversion, the feelings that come up, all of your training, certainly generational trauma. There's just like so much stuff
yeah,
in there. But like, you are not, as a person, you are not inherently bad with numbers.
mhm,
And I think that that's the same, that can be said for anybody and anything. And like, and maybe that's the lesson here in, um, dear listeners, if you hear your own mean voices telling yourselves that you're bad at something, um, well, I've never taken a social media class, so I'm just bad at social media. Well, I'm a bad cook because I just was never taught. I'm shit at painting. Whatever it is that your mean voices want to say, let's challenge those mean voices.
mhm,
Let's ask them why they think that thing that they're thinking about us, and let's go toe to toe with that
yeah.
voice. Um, and do some work around how we can turn that voice down. Um,
I mean, that's you're literally this is what I mean, you just reiterated exactly why I keep bringing you back because we are so in alignment. I mean, that's literally why EAC was created because we've been taught and told certain things and all this stuff that we frankly should have been, I hate the word should, but should have been taught or told about life and being a human and also being an artist, like all of those things, we were never taught those things. And those are actually the things that are important to being a person and an artist. Like, if we don't have these belief systems that we all have about the world that we live in, and that it has to be this certain way, or that, oh, well, this is the industry and therefore it must be done this way because it's how it's been this whole, like, that is a story, like we've been talking
Mhm.
about, a story that we have been told and taught so that everything is neat and put in a little bow and nobody disrupts. But, like, who are we if we're not people who are trying to disrupt that system? Who are not in like a,
Mhm.
like a screw everybody, but it's a, that is our job. Like, our job as artists is to tell stories differently and to say, but what if it's this time? And what if we told it this way? Or what if I didn't think that way? Or, as you just so beautifully said, like, what if I challenge that thought that has been told to me? Well, I can't take up space. Well, why? Well, because I'm a woman. Okay, well, why? Because I'm tall. Okay, well, why? Because I think, like, and really just keep on like sussing that out and digging and digging. Like, you'll get to the core of the fact, which is like, oh, right, this is bullshit. Like, not always, but majority of the time. And it makes me, I mean, that's literally why this whole entire community exists, is because I don't believe that that is the world that we need to be living in. I really, really don't. And if it starts right here in this little podcast conversation that we're having, or in the little cohorts that we're having, or in like slowly budding, like, I really think that is the whole point. The whole point is like we are in control of shifting that narrative for ourselves, of giving
Mhm.
ourselves
Mhm.
these tools by challenging the fact that, okay, if this teacher is telling me this thing, why are they saying that to me? Is it because they have been stuck in this position for a really long time and they're bitter about the fact that they haven't been acting for a while? Like, I mean, not to put them down, but maybe, okay, cool, that's not
Mhm.
about me then. That's not about me. And now I'm, like, I think back, and now I'm on my soapbox here because you just got me like riled up.
Please.
But I think back to, I had a really traumatic, and by trauma, I mean, it's like just like the impression that it made on me took me 10 plus years. When I
Mm.
was in theater camp, when I was 15 years old, I
Mm.
had I would call them a mentor at the time. This is a very personal story that I'm going to release into the ether, but here we are, where I was cast in their shows like every summer. And then once, like the latter 2 summers, I was not cast in their shows again. And I asked them my final
Mm.
year in my theater camp, and I was like, hey, like, why didn't you cast me in your shows anymore? Which was bold as a 15-year-old, but that's what I'm, prone to do in my life, is be bold. And they said something that was so damaging to me that I'm clearly, they didn't know that impact that they were gonna what they said was gonna have on me, but it literally impacted my entire undergrad education in my acting, all
Mm.
of the years before that, and even, like, I'd say into my MFA, where I could not believe that I could be all that I was and am, because of what they said and the impact that these words had, because I trusted them and wanted to believe that everything that they said was true because of the mentorship that I thought I had with them. And it's like, well, actually, no. And then it took me however many years to try to overcome that and recognize, like, oh, this really had nothing to do with me,
Mhm.
and just the unlearning and the muscle to unlearn is so unsharpened.
Uh-huh.
And how can we sharpen that tool?
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I wanna, like, scoop up
I know.
fifteen-year-old Jennifer and just,
I
like,
did
give her
too.
a
I
hug.
like, oh yeah, no, I mean, trust me, in therapy, we've dealt with that one for many
Sure.
years, scooping her up and being like, you are enough. You really,
Mhm.
and you are talented. You are enough. And
Mhm.
like, I mean, like, truly, the smallest of words that people can say can stick with us for whatever those reasons
Mhm.
are.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't I wish and I think something else that to continue answering your, is there, like, a thing that
Yeah.
if we all could have had, we would have I think one of the other answers to that is mentorship. Um, and I wish that mentorship didn't have so much opportunity to go, like, terribly, terribly
Right.
wrong. And that's good mentorship. Uh, good mentorship, whatever that
The
means.
quotes. Yes. The quotations
Yeah,
around the,
the quotes, yes. Good good mentorship. But leadership in a positive way that can, like, help. shepherd you into the world and to offer some of these lessons. I mean, I think that would be, I mean, mentorship, I think good mentorship is really hard to find.
It's also something that I think a good mentor, or at least the ones that I've had that have been good, have been the ones that recognize that they don't know everything and that they can
Mhm,
shepherd you on to people who do, you know?
mhm, mhm.
I think that that's
And
a humbling thing to be able to do, to be like, "I don't know this.
yeah,
They might know
yeah.
better than me."
Well, and to ask questions.
Yep.
I mean, I really do think that there's so much creative inquiry in the process of being a person, and we are not handed enough opportunities, I think, to push that inward and to ask ourselves why, and like, is this mine, or am I just carrying this for someone else? And the ability to ask those questions, I think, are it can be hugely
Mhm.
impactful, but it's also another not really another tool that we've been handed.
Yeah.
And again, like I work with some of the most amazing people who dream up the most beautiful worlds. Um, I mean, just beautiful, incredible, articulate, flowery language, stunning images, like these amazing worlds, and yet do not imagine a world in which they are not oppressed.
Mm.
And there, and I, and that, and it breaks my heart. And I think I do that too. I also can get into my own little spiral that is like, my little dark pit,
Mhm.
exists too. But we have so much creative energy and so much creative capital in our hearts and minds and brains and bodies, and we use so much of it to beat ourselves up.
Yeah.
And I wish we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanna, like, hold space for that too, because I feel like it's one of those things that it's not even that I of course, I wish that we didn't, but it's also that we were somewhere in the trajectory of life, we were told or taught that that is just what it is. That is something that, like, we would just do to ourselves.
Mhm,
But, like, you watch babies in the world and they are present and they are experiencing things in real time, and then they move through and the emotions move through because that's what emotions do. A dog, watch a
mhm,
dog. Like, a dog looks at you when it wants to eat, and it will sit when it wants something, and it cuddles you. It's just very in the moment and present, and as we've developed and as, larger systems beyond us have subconsciously or consciously told us these things about ourselves, that it's become this it just seems to be the way that it has to be, that, like,
mhm.
yeah, we have the little, I call it the little fucker, but, like, the little fucker on my shoulder, just, like, whispering in my ear that, like, I just of course, the little fucker is gonna be a part of my life, but
Mhm,
it didn't have to be there. It doesn't have to be there. I've just given them space. And that space and that energy, as you so beautifully said, could be put elsewhere, or just the countering of that, of like, cool, there's the little fucker. And also there could be like the little encourager. I've never called it that, but I need to find a better word. Like they're even.
mhm. Have you watched The Emperor's New Groove?
Of course. Classic.
Okay, so we have Angel Kronk and Devil Kronk,
Exactly.
right?
Hmm.
Like, yes,
Yep.
yes, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I energetically place so much blame behind culture
Hmm.
as well when I'm thinking about my own personal little mean voice,
Mm.
because so much of the way that I was raised, I the sort of the strictness of my father, the rules that I had to I mean, like, all of these things, I blamed so much of it on culture,
Mm.
and a lot of that he was handed from a cultural perspective as well, and his mother was handed from a cultural perspective, and it is generational, and it does sit in that space, and it is handed down, and I don't want to devalue how heavy that
Mhm.
is and how hard that is to shake, and um, how all encompassing and like core to your identity that can
Mhm.
feel. Um, but it is challengeable,
Yeah.
like it is something that you can look at in the mirror and just ask,
Right.
like, why do I believe that I'm bad with money? Why do I believe I am not good enough? Why am I telling myself these things, these bad stories? Um, and I feel like everyone has heard that adage, right? Of like, if on my darkest day I took my worst fucker voice and handed it to you, you would immediately look at that and be like, "What the no, like, what are you talking
Mhm.
about? Like, you are no,
Mhm.
bad. Don't stop it. It is not true. I don't believe that about you. And here, let me tell you all the good things about you that are counter to that, right? But we have a really
Yeah.
hard time doing that for ourselves. And of course, this brings us back to, like, the value of community and having folks that can mirror these things back to us and having these conversations. And, if it's really difficult to ask these questions of your own mean voices, like asking someone to help you talk to those mean
Mhm.
voices, and whether that's a friend or a parent or a therapist or, whoever that professional is. Um, but it's just in there. Like, I feel, and this is so not where I thought this conversation was going
Same.
to
I
go.
never know.
Uh, but as we sort of like hurl ourselves down the hole of the human existence, and like being a person, like I think it keeps coming back to, like, being a person is really hard,
Yeah.
you know, and even being a moderately privileged American dwelling, English speaking person with a good amount of proximity to whiteness, being a person is really hard.
Yeah.
And I just want us, not just, I hate the just word too. I want us to be asking more
Yeah.
questions about that. Like, why is it so hard? Why am I making it so hard on myself?
Mhm.
Why does this suck so much?
Yeah.
Like, this should not have to suck.
Yeah. I think about that too. I mean, as you were saying all that, it's like nothing that we're talking about is easy. Let's just preface that. Like everything that has been discussed in this conversation is what I would deem challenging, not difficult,
Mhm.
challenging, because it
Mhm.
comes up against all of the things that we've been taught, all the things that we're told, all the things that we might have done habitually, the things that are systemically in the way in which we exist in the world. Like all of it's
Yeah.
challenging something in us. But a
Mhm.
challenge doesn't mean danger. A challenge doesn't
Mhm.
mean bad. It can, for sure. But this is all challenging. And I feel I'm very grateful that this conversation took this turn, because I feel like this is the crux of really when push comes to shove, everything that we do in life, right? And obviously, this came from the perspective of like, how do we get into our finances and our narrative around finances? But like that, it's mirrored to the fact that that is also as challenging as any of the other things, too. And it doesn't have to be any more challenging than any of the other stuff. And I think what a wonderful little lesson for me to be hearing today about the fact that it isn't, we put so much pressure on it because perhaps it's something that we don't necessarily understand and it feels really nebulous in all of the ways and the ins and the outs. And we didn't even frankly talk about, well, there will have to be a part, duh, and a whatever with this. But, all the other, like the inconsistencies about being an artist and the ways that, like, how do you navigate all of that stuff we haven't even touched on. But this idea that, um, it doesn't have to be something beyond us and separate from us because it is just yet another possible challenge that is perhaps an exciting way to recreate or retell your own story. And what a
Mhm.
wonderful little takeaway lesson that was so unexpected from this that I'm like sitting here being like, ooh, what a little, I mean, I had nothing to do with it. I'm just sitting here like taking in your brilliance. But like, I mean, thank you for going on this journey here today in this way, so openly and beautifully as you always do. It's just
Mm.
I'm so, so grateful.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think this conversation is such a perfect example of, like, nothing is lost,
Mhm.
and there's always some meat and some juice to be squeezed out of whatever it is we're digging and we're mining. And that, um, the first step is always inquiry.
Yeah.
Whether it's a budget or a big conversation like this one. It's like, what's the first step?
Mhm.
Like, what's the first? I think it was Picasso that said, um, the 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 first stroke on a canvas is always a mistake, and
Mm.
then you spend the rest of the art piece fixing it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so what's the first mistake I can make? Like, what's the first
Mhm.
messy, dirty, like, dive into the thing, and then we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Like, we need not solve it in a
Yeah.
moment, but, like, what's that first step towards financial literacy or justice and equality in our practices, or, whatever
Yeah.
giant thing we're solving today.
Truly. Truly. Well, how
You
can
know,
people if people want to reach you, respecting your boundaries and the way in which you like to be communicated, where can they find you? How can they potentially work with you and forge? What is that?
mm, absolutely. Thank you. So you can find out more about Forge at forgenyc.org.
Which will be in the show notes. Don't forget. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be there. Yes.
Excellent, right there. probably even in like link form. It'll be all high
Mhm.
tech. It's going to be so easy. Click on that little link there, and you can learn more about myself, a little bit more about my values and sort of where I stand. I mean, we've like been landed on a little thick here, but as well as my co-founder Greg Taubman, and some of the things that we do with Forge. We are very mission based, how based, why based practitioners. We look a lot at process, and that is everything from 5-year plans to how do I build this show to I've never made a short film before and I want to do it. And like, how the heck do I do that? We love connecting the dots and helping folks reach out to the collaborators that they need in their lives to find the people that they need to be working with or want to be talking to. We really try to be experts of like, we are not experts.
Mhm.
We are like, we know together, we know a lot, and but not everything. And together we'll figure out what else we need to know. And then we'll go find that information. We also have a host of development opportunities. We run a pop up workspace called Fast Fuel, in which you can come talk to me face to face, one on one, screen to screen, uh, whatever that is now, in a free 30-minute conversation. Anyone who comes to Fast Fuel can grab 30 minutes with Greg and I and just talk to us about whatever it is that's on your mind. And that's a great way to get to know us a little better and see how we work and meet our community. We have a fellowship that we also run. We teach workshops. We're everywhere. We're doing all kinds of things.
Incredible.
So you can learn more about Forge there, and then you can always email me. And Jennifer, I assume you can put that email
I
address
can.
in the show notes as well. It's chie@forgenyc.org. And I really do. I mean, I've told this to I think every EAC cohort, but like emails in the middle of the night about personal finance and like big life questions are like my sweet spot.
We all
so
have something, you know.
so hey, it's that and desserts. So but really truly like send me an email, reach out to me. I'm also on Instagram at Chie Celine. You can find me there, and reach out, and say hi and tell me about what you're working on and what your big questions are and what you're running into, and I don't know what your little fucker is saying, and we'll we'll dive in.
Unreal. I'm so thankful that you are here again for this, and frankly have been s sans the first one, you have been through all of our programming thus far, and truly, 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 from the bottom of my heart, EAC would not be what it is without the work that you have been doing with our
Thank
participants,
you.
and you are such a crucial part to reimagining and calibrating the way in which we can give these life skills to humans earlier. And so I'm just endlessly grateful and cannot wait to meet you in human form
Oh my god, it's gonna
in
be
the
great.
least creepy way possible. Just like, just like, I mean, I don't know. But thank you, thank you, thank you. And enjoy Mardi Gras.
Oh my god, thank you. And thank you for having this is so it's been such a pleasure to watch EAC grow and unfold and emerge and evolve and change and just become itself, and to continue watching you be at the nexus of that.
Thank
And
you.
like I truly you are serving me, you serve us so well. I'm thrilled to be a part of this family, and can't wait to continue being a part of it. And I'm just gonna like squeeze you so hard your eyeballs pop
True.
out.
I
I hope
cannot
you're
wait.
ready.
I cannot wait. I hope no one's in their proximity because they're going to go bulging. And I'm like, I'm here for
It's
it.
true, just everywhere.
And on that note, we'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.